Are inverted outputs best on a preamp? Interesting question. It comes from Michael in Lafayette, New Jersey. I'm the original owner of a preamp that I purchased in 1994 as part of a new stereo system that inverts the main output. This means I had to flip polarity at the speakers. The system is still up and running, but with some cable upgrades over time, including a PS Audio, Power Plant Premier. Good idea to get that power right. Over the years, I've gone not knowing much about audio to knowing more, especially with all of your various presentations online. I'm glad I was able to help. The manufacturer of the preamp still holds on to this philosophy of inverting the output signal in their new products today. Why do they invert the signal, and why do they state that this is the best way to get great sound? And how many preamps are there with outputs inverted? This is important to me as I'm planning to purchase new equipment this year. Well, okay, great question. On the face of it, whether the output is inverted or non-inverted makes no difference whatsoever as long as you pay attention and know it and compensate for it, which you have by flipping the polarity of your speaker. So, in its simplest form, the answer is no, it does not make any difference. And if that is what they are implying, then that is incorrect. That is wrong. They are misleading. But I don't believe that's their intent. I don't know the company. So let's dig a little deeper. First off, what does it mean? When we have an amplifier and we are looking at signals that are going up and down, which AC signals do, all musical signals, go positive to negative and positive to negative, and the speed at which they do it and the height of which the voltage is determines the frequencies that we hear and the loudness that they are presented. So, an inverted signal means that when it's supposed to be, so the input is going up, the inverted signal is the opposite. It's going down. And does that matter? Well, that's, I don't want to give out a snake award right now because I'll hear the howls of people going, it can't matter. It's, what difference does it make at those frequencies, whether it's going up or down for that one cycle? Because that's what's happening, and it always goes the other way. And there are tons of theories about why it does matter. We put an inverting switch on our DACs so that you can invert, because there are a number of tracks that are inverted and they sound different when they are flipped around in the positive polarity. But let's not get into that, because we already handed out our snake award yesterday, and we don't want to do it twice. Okay, here's what I think is going on. I think it runs a little deeper than just the inverted or non-inverted that is being implied here. There are companies who cling to the simple is better philosophy down to their very cores. When we look at an amplification stage, whether it's a tube amplification stage or a solid state amplification stage, if we only have one stage, just imagine one device, let's call it a transistor. We have one transistor that is essentially our preamplifier, and we're following it with, let's say we have a buffer on the output, an emitter follower, some kind of device to impedance match so that we can drive cables. But the actual preamplifier circuit is a single device. In our case, a transistor, but it could be a tube, right? When you use one device to amplify, it will always invert. That's just the nature of it. So if we take a simple transistor circuit, we've got our through, we've gone over these before. We have the collector, the base, and the emitter. And so the collector is the top of our transistor, and it hooks up, and if we have an NPN transistor, it hooks up to plus through a resistor. And then the base is our input, and this is what hooks up to our signal generator with a phono cartridge or a microphone or a preamp, right? Or whatever source you might have. And the emitter, which goes down to ground or negative voltage, so that the current is flowing between the collector and the emitter, the top and the bottom one, and the middle one, our base, is what's controlling the amount of current flowing through that transistor from top to bottom. We're just going to keep it really simple here. When we do that, if I have a positive going signal going into my base, I'm going to start drawing current across the collector resistor, the one at top. Remember, the one on top is our positive resistor. As I draw current, the voltage across that resistor starts to drop because I'm drawing current. As we may remember from some of our earlier lessons that we've gone through, if I have 10 volts at one side of a resistor and I put a meter on the other side of the resistor, I'm going to measure 10 volts. But as soon as I start drawing current, if that meter, if I put a resistor there and start drawing current where the meter has current, then that voltage begins to drop. And the more current I draw across that resistor, the more voltage I drop across the resistor. It's just using Ohm's law. So that top collector resistor, as I go up, the transistor begins to, on the base, as I go up on the base, the transistor begins to conduct current. Current flows through that resistor down towards the emitter, and that drop becomes bigger. So as the input goes up, the output goes down, and we have an inverted signal, right? Does that make sense? So in most non-inverting preamplifiers, if we're just going to use a preamp, we add a second stage that does exactly the same thing, but 2 inverts equals a non-invert. So if you have a non-inverting amplifier, chances are very likely that you have a 2-stage amplifier where the first stage is inverting, the second stage also inverts because each single stage inverts, but 2 inverts gets you non-invert. And that's basically how it works. So my guess is that this company's design philosophy is we want to make it simple, and we have a 1-stage amplification device, and that's why it's inverting, and that's why it's better for ours to always be inverting. Not because an inverted signal is better or worse than a non-inverted signal, but because of what's going on inside that's causing that reversal of polarity. That's my best guess. Thanks. Bye.